Okay, this is the final video in the CivPay tool series, and we're going to be focusing on this bottom area here, kind of what it means to you and how you want to look at it if you were to use this reporting tool. So we've got some information plugged in here. We're using the prior 3 pay periods, as we explained earlier, for our extrapolation. Now the first few things, these are referencing, so total MRV. We know we're pulling out the ESP coded employees so that we know how many of our funded work years that are not tied specifically to a position, to a very specific ESP coded position, we have to fund, and then hours work year. So this is the first part of the formulations that we're using to extrapolate, and the biggest part of our work year consumption factor. So what this is, projected work year hours. This is going to be a function of work years executed, so the total number we've already done for the year. And then because I'm using the average pay periods for the last 3, I'm going to be taking this average, 9.68, times that 9.9, and adding it to my 256.3, I'm sorry, my 161.76. So it's what's happened already plus what I think is going to happen. That's going to give me my projected. Again, if I were to switch back to using that all fiscal year pay periods, it's a larger average because the most recent have dipped a little bit. That number would go up. So it depends on what's more correct, so to speak, relative to your situation. But I'm going to be using that 3 pay period average, the last 3 pay period average. Hiring plan forecast, that would also get added in. So if we were to say know that we're going to have one person coming in, one permanent hire for the next several pay periods, and then let's subtract 3 temps from these 3. Let's go ahead and put a number in there because it won't let you put a non-number, a non-integer in there. And then let's just put some LEWOP in there for the sake of doing it. 500 per pay period. So we've got some type of a total here. Go back to our execution plan, and now we've got that addressed as well. So our projections based upon what we've done with our HR and what they've told us is going to happen in the coming pay period. So there's that factor, adjusted projected work year consumption right there. The next part of this that could eat into your work years as a function of how many dollars you're spending. We said, hey, non-R60 expense is $100,000 as a portion of 144,000, which is our average work year cost. That's 0.69. So we need to assume that, or we're going to add that into our work year execution. So the 256.82 plus the 0.69. So that's part of our projection now. And our final projection is right here. So we've got our prior year total, 1% of that for U for CAP, and then we've got max reserve, right? So here, and this would change actually, the max for UFR and the max awards amount would change. If this number, this 0.96, were actually less than this number, it would show the lesser amount. In this case, the total would be 1.53 average work years worth of money we can spend on UFRs. And since we've already spent this 100 grand up here, it's going to subtract from that. So at the end of the day, it's this 256 in our actual hours execution. It's the 0.69 for what we've already spent, and it's the 0.83 on the total amount of work years that we could spend on UFRs, such as awards or other things. So that's what brings us to our 258.35, which, because we're funding at 279, if I'm getting that math right, is 20.65 work years that we are going to not execute at a percentage of 92.6%. So that's how that flow works, and as these numbers change, as your actuals change, it'll change. Execution by type employee, we like to look at this. So MRV total funded is 257, 222 for a total of 281. Now what these formulas do is reach into the raw data to do their extrapolations. So if you were to add some of these together and go, this should equal this over here, there can be rounding errors. That's all it is. It's not trivial data. but it is giving you an idea of what's going on with the types of funding you're having. So these would be looking at positions that are just temp code funded in your raw data. These are those very specific ESP coded, and these don't have a temp code or an ESP code. And then we do look at the total number of hours. It's there for you, and as a function of the 2096 for this fiscal year, and so on and so forth. That plays into some of the math. How many people can I hire right now? So if you remember the prior video, this current pay period work year factor, yesterday it was 0.51, but it is Saturday right now, and if we push that out, so the next time you actually run your data, that next pay period is going to be taken up. So what we're actually looking at, so the next time you run your data, the factor will be 0.312, because everything that could have been executed in that pay period that had a factor of 0.351 is in the books. It's done. There's no more projection that we can coordinate with the HR. If it happened, it happened, and when you run your data, it will have happened. So what we're doing here is taking this projected work year delta, in this case it's 20.65 work years not executed, dividing it by this factor, and in fact, if all else holds true, as in my assumptions, if I take the 20.65 divided by the 0.312, then that's what gives me this number right here. Again, if I were to say no more awards, no more nothing, no PCSs that are funded out of lapse rate, I could add another 2.66, which gives me this total of 68.64 people that I could hire. Obviously, you're not going to hire 0.64 people, so that would be a rounded down number. And in fact, I'll do that right here, round down, because rounding up is not realistic. It doesn't like me. Oh, because I put a period instead of a comma. So in real time, I'm just showing you here how many people, because we're talking about people. And we can do this as well. So you see how that happened there. It went from 65.98. I want to go ahead and round down on that as well. And there we go. The final one, funding requirements. Again, this is in late August, early September, mid-September thing. I put some realistic numbers back in here, 32.265 million, so they're going to fund you at 85%. So this is roughly 85% of our projected. So hopefully we see that funding document come through with about $5.7 million to cover us for our projection. And then whenever that final CivPay comes through for our LSL that is NGB funded, it will come with a number something like 70,000. But again, this is a straight line, so maybe nobody retires, maybe nobody gets a lump sum leave, and 43 is just our final number. So as the year unfolds, this will come back into play with what's actually happened much more. It's just a projection, not a whole lot of smart thinking going on there, just a straight line from what has happened. So that about wraps up this report. If you were to hit Control P, currently it is set so that it will show you this type of report if you print or if you save as PDF. And that's about it. There may be some more videos to come. Go back and watch these so you have a better understanding of how exactly this works if you choose to use this at your wing. See you in the next video series.